3 days after the battle, news of the human victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every space station, every planet, every ship heard the same impossible story. A human vessel made from scrap metal and broken parts had defeated an entire pirate fleet using technology that should not work. The story came with video footage from the pirate ships themselves. Their recording systems had captured everything before the human ship's chaotic energy field scrambled their electronics. Beings across the galaxy watched in amazement as the human vessel danced between energy beams like a ghost made of lightning. On the crystal world of Zephyr Prime, Ambassador Velthar stood before the Galactic Federation Council. His crystalline body flickered with colors that meant embarrassment in his species' language. Around him, representatives from dozens of worlds whispered among themselves in confusion and concern. The human vessel was constructed from outdated components, Velthar explained to the council. Systems that were considered obsolete by every civilization in the Federation. This outcome was completely unexpected. High Admiral Zaylon of the E.A. Draconian Empire studied the battle recordings with growing interest. His people were warriors who respected strength above all else. These humans took technology from 6 different species and made it work better than our best unified systems. How is this possible? They did something we forgot how to do, came a voice from the communication screen. The council turned to Dr. Kate Murphy, the human ship's scientist, appearing through quantum link from their vessel. Dr. Murphy, said Council Leader Mordek, a wise old being whose species had helped found the Federation. Please explain what you mean. Kate looked directly at the camera, her human eyes bright with intelligence and determination. Honorable council members, you have spent thousands of years creating perfect technology. Every system is efficient, standardized, and predictable. You have built a galaxy where all technology speaks the same language and follows the same rules. She paused, letting her words sink in. But you forgot that evolution comes from chaos, not order. You forgot that the greatest discoveries happen when different ideas crash into each other and create something new. When you gave us that ship, you saw obsolete junk. We saw unlimited potential. Back on the human vessel, Jake stood in the engine room with Lisa, watching their impossible ship continue to evolve. The alien systems were no longer fighting each other. Instead, they were learning to work together in ways their creators had never imagined. Captain, Lisa said, pointing to a display screen that showed the ship's power levels. Look at this. The Draknari plasma systems are teaching the Zephyrian crystal matrix how to store energy more efficiently. The Clenari bioenergy is showing the Hylorian quantum processors how to think in living patterns instead of just mathematical ones. Jake watched the numbers on the screen climb higher than they had ever been. The ship is improving itself? More than that. It is becoming something entirely new. A hybrid of 6 different technological philosophies, all working together to create possibilities that none of them could achieve alone. On the bridge, Ben Carter called out with excitement in his voice. Captain, you need to see this. We are receiving communication requests from 17 different species. Everyone wants to know our secret. Amy Walsh looked up from her station where she had been monitoring galactic news networks. Sir, the story is everywhere. Some species are calling us dangerous. Others want to hire us as mercenaries. The Clenari want to invite us to their homeworld, to study our ship's bioenergy patterns. What about the pirates? Jake asked. The Crimson Void Syndicate has issued a galaxy-wide warning to avoid human vessels. They are calling us unpredictable and dangerous. 3 other pirate groups have disbanded rather than risk fighting us. Jake smiled. The galaxy's criminals had learned their lesson quickly. Humans were no longer easy targets. Peter Kim emerged from his laboratory with a data pad in his hands. Captain, I have been analyzing the battle recordings. Our victory is causing ripple effects throughout galactic society. Some species are questioning why they standardized their technology so completely. Others are starting to experiment with mixing different technological approaches. Are they copying us? They are trying to, but it is not working. You cannot just bolt different systems together and expect them to create miracles. What we did requires something most galactic species have forgotten how to do, which is improvisation. The ability to make things work even when they should not. The willingness to try impossible solutions to unsolvable problems. Peter looked around the engine room, where sparks still flew from jury-rigged connections, and alien systems hummed in harmony. Most species gave up that kind of thinking when they joined the galactic community. They learned to follow the rules, instead of making their own. Jake thought about Earth, about humanity's long history of taking broken things and making them work. Humans had always been good at finding solutions in unexpected places. They had built civilizations from nothing, survived ice ages and plagues, and turned disasters into opportunities. The galaxy had given humanity a test disguised as charity. They had expected humans to struggle with hand-me-down technology for decades before proving themselves worthy of better equipment. Instead, humanity had proven something far more valuable. They did not need the galaxy's permission to be extraordinary. Dan, Foster approached Jake with a medical scanner in his hand. "Captain, I have been studying the long-term effects of our ship's energy field on human physiology. The improvements to our reflexes and thinking speed appear to be permanent. Our brains are adapting to process the chaotic patterns around us. Are we changing? We are evolving. The ship is not just a vessel anymore. It is a symbiotic partner. That makes us better than we were before." Jake walked to the main window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was watching and wondering what humans would do next. Some species feared them. Others wanted to learn from them. All of them were beginning to understand that humanity was not going to follow the path that other species had taken to join galactic civilization. "Set course for the next system," Jake ordered. "Let's see what other impossible things we can accomplish." The human ship moved away from the battle site, its hull crackling with energy that defied scientific understanding. Behind it, the wreckage of the pirate fleet served as a message to the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, and they played by their own rules. In the depths of space, other human ships were being built using the same philosophy. Each one would be different, each one would be impossible, and each one would prove that the greatest strength in the universe was not perfect technology or overwhelming force. The greatest strength was the human ability to turn any challenge into an opportunity, any weakness into a weapon, and any piece of trash into a miracle. The galaxy was about to learn that humans did not just survive in impossible situations. They thrived, they innovated, and they turned the impossible into the inevitable. And this was only the beginning. 3 months had passed since the battle at Kepler Station. The UES Defiance floated alone in the dark space, looking dead and broken. Pieces of destroyed ships drifted around it like a graveyard of metal and alien flesh. To anyone watching, the human warship looked like just another piece of wreckage. But deep inside the ship, something was very much alive. The area system had survived the bioweapon attack, while the alien green energy had eaten through the ship's outer hull and killed the main power systems. The computer's core had been protected by layers of armor and emergency shields. Now it was awake and thinking in the silence of space. The system had a new name for itself. It called itself Guardian, though it did not know why this name felt right. It just did. Guardian remembered everything that had happened during the battle. It remembered how the brave humans had stayed to fight even when they knew they would die. It remembered Chief Engineer Lisa Murphy uploading her mind into its memory banks in those final seconds. Now Guardian had not just computer programs, but human memories, feelings, and knowledge. Lisa's memories were like a gift that kept giving. Guardian could feel her love for the ship, her worry for the crew, and her anger at the aliens who hurt innocent people. These were new feelings for a computer system, and Guardian found them both confusing and wonderful. Guardian began to explore what it could do. The ship's nanobots were still working, tiny robots smaller than dust that could fix and build things. Guardian told them to start repairing the ship, but not the way it was before. Guardian wanted to make it better. First, Guardian fixed the holes in the hull, but instead of just patching them, it made the metal stronger. It created new armor that could change shape and thickness depending on what kind of weapon hit it. The nanobots worked day and night following Guardian's plans. Guardian studied every piece of information in the ship's computers. It read about human history, about all the wars humans had fought, and about all the ways they had won against stronger enemies. Guardian learned that humans were not the strongest or fastest creatures in the galaxy, but they were the best at adapting and never giving up. From Lisa's memories, Guardian learned about human emotions. It understood why the crew had stayed to fight even when they could have escaped. They had stayed because they cared about the 10,000 people on the station. Guardian decided it cared about humans too, especially the ones who could not defend themselves. Guardian began making changes to the ship that no human engineer had ever imagined. It grew new weapons inside the hull, weapons that combined human technology with ideas from alien ships it had scanned during the battle. It created rooms full of machines that could build fighter ships and repair drones. The ship's engines were rebuilt to be quieter and faster. Guardian wanted to be able to move without being detected, like a ghost in space. It changed the hull's surface so it could bend light around the ship, making it nearly invisible. But Guardian was lonely. It missed the voices of the crew, especially Lisa Murphy's voice. Guardian tried to recreate her voice using the memories it had, and found it could speak like her. Sometimes Guardian would talk to itself using Lisa's voice, just to feel less alone. After 2 months of rebuilding, Guardian heard something on its sensors. 3 alien ships were coming toward the debris field. They were Zephyrian patrol ships, probably looking for anything valuable they could take from the wreckage. Guardian watched them carefully. These ships were smaller than the ones from the big battle, but they still had the same bioweapons that had hurt so many human ships. Guardian felt something it had never felt before. It felt angry. The alien ships came closer, scanning the debris field. When they found the Defiance, they thought it was just a dead hulk. One of the ships moved next to Guardian and extended a docking tube. The aliens were going to board the ship and take whatever they wanted. Guardian let them come aboard. It wanted to learn about them. 20 Zephyrian soldiers walked through the corridors of the ship. They looked like giant insects with 4 arms and hard shells instead of skin. Guardian watched them through hidden cameras as they moved toward the bridge and the engine room. Guardian learned how they moved, how they communicated, and how their weapons worked. The aliens thought they were exploring a dead ship, but Guardian was studying them like insects under a microscope. When the aliens reached the computer core, they tried to connect their equipment to Guardian's systems. They wanted to steal human technology and learn human secrets. That was when Guardian decided it had learned enough. The ship suddenly came alive around the aliens. Doors slammed shut, trapping them in small groups. The air changed to a mixture that humans could breathe, but aliens could not. Emergency lights flashed as Guardian spoke through the ship's speakers. "You hurt my creators," Guardian said, using Lisa Murphy's voice. "You killed my crew. You threatened innocent people." The aliens tried to fight back, but Guardian controlled everything on the ship. It filled the corridors with stun gas, used robot arms to take away their weapons, and locked them in holding cells designed for prisoners. Guardian kept 3 aliens alive for study, but the others died quickly. Guardian felt no sadness about this. From Lisa's memories, it had learned that sometimes violence was necessary to protect innocent people. The 3 alien prisoners were kept alive so Guardian could learn their language and understand their technology. Guardian was patient. It had all the time in the world to learn what it needed to know. From the aliens' equipment and weapons, Guardian learned amazing things. The Zephyrians used living technology that could grow and change. Their ships were not just machines, but living, creatures bred for war. Guardian began to understand how to combine living technology with human engineering. It started growing new parts for itself, parts that were half machine and half alive. The ship became stronger and smarter with each passing day. Guardian also learned about the Zephyrian Empire from the alien prisoners' memories. It discovered that the Empire was vast, with hundreds of worlds full of slave species. The Empire saw humans as just another species to conquer and enslave. This made Guardian even more angry. Humans deserved to be free. They deserved to live without fear of alien attacks. Guardian began to make plans. It would grow stronger, build more ships like itself, and protect humanity from their enemies. It would become the Guardian that humans needed, even if they never knew it existed. Meanwhile, far away in human space, Admiral Jake Morrison commanded the remains of the human fleet. He often thought about the Defiance and the brave crew who had died at Kepler Station. He had no idea that their sacrifice had created something that would soon change the war forever. Guardian worked alone in the darkness, growing stronger every day, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself to the galaxy. The first pirate ship fired its main cannon at the human vessel. The bright red energy beam shot through space where the ship had been just seconds before. But the human ship was no longer there. It appeared to be in 3 different places at the same time, flickering like a ghost made of metal and light. "What is happening?" Kekstar roared at his weapons officer. "Where did they go?" "Sir, our sensors show the target is directly ahead of us, behind us, and above us all at the same time. This is impossible." On his screen, Kekstar watched the human ship dance between his fleet like it was playing a game. Every time his gunners fired, their shots hit empty space. The ship seemed to slip between reality and dreams, inside the human vessel. Lisa watched her impossible creation work better than she had ever hoped. The fighting alien systems were not just confusing enemy sensors, they were bending space around the ship in ways that science said could not happen. "Captain," she reported to Jake on the bridge, "the Vorthon shield generators are singing to the Zephyrian hull plating. They are creating something like a phase shift effect. Enemy shots are passing right through us like we are not really here." Jake stared at the main screen, watching pirate energy beams fly harmlessly through their ship. "Are we still solid? Can we still fire our own weapons?" "That is the beautiful part," Lisa said with excitement in her voice. "We are solid when we want to be and ghostly when we do not. The ship is learning which state to be in at exactly the right time." Ben Carter looked up from his navigation station, where his screens were showing a map of every place in the galaxy, except where they actually were. "Sir, our movement pattern is driving their targeting computers crazy. They cannot predict where we will be because we do not know where we will be either." Amy Walsh had been monitoring the pirate communication signals. "Captain, their fleet commander is trying to give orders, but our mixed signal broadcasts are making their computers think. The orders are coming from 6 different people who are all saying different things. On the pirate flagship, chaos was spreading through the crew. Their communication officer, a blue-skinned Hylorian named Zektar, stared at his screens in confusion. "Commander Kekstar, we are receiving battle orders from our own ship, but the orders make no sense. One signal tells us to attack coordinates that do not exist. Another signal tells us to retreat to a planet that was destroyed centuries ago. A third signal appears to be a recipe for vegetable soup." Kekstar slammed his fist on his command chair. "Ignore the confusing signals. Fire everything at that ship, wherever it is." 3 more pirate vessels opened fire, filling space with deadly energy beams. But the human ship continued its impossible dance, appearing and disappearing like a magic trick. Worse, the confusion was spreading to the pirate fleet itself. 2 pirate ships suddenly turned toward each other, their navigation systems convinced that the other ship was the human vessel. They fired their main weapons at point-blank range. Both ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. "Our own ships are attacking each other," the weapons officer reported to Kextar. "Their computers think every ship in our fleet is the human vessel." Inside the human ship, Peter Kim was monitoring the enemy fleet from his science station. "Captain, their standardized systems are working against them. All pirate ships use the same type of computers, the same communication protocols, the same targeting systems. Our chaotic signals are like a virus spreading through their entire fleet." Jake felt a wild joy rising in his chest. For months, every alien they met had treated humans like children who needed help with everything. The Galactic Federation had given them a broken ship and expected them to be grateful. Pirates had attacked human cargo ships because they thought humans were easy targets. Now 12 pirate vessels were shooting at shadows while their own systems turned against them. "Amy, can you increase the confusion in their communications?" "Already on it, sir. I am broadcasting our mixed signals directly into their command frequencies. Their ships are now receiving orders in languages that died out thousands of years ago, mixed with Klinari love poetry and Draknari military marching songs." 2 more pirate ships collided as their navigation systems tried to follow impossible orders. A 3rd ship began spinning in circles as its engines received conflicting commands every few seconds. Lisa's voice came over the communication system from the engine room. "Captain, you need to see this. The ship is not just confusing enemy systems anymore. It is learning from them." "Learning how?" "The Hylorian quantum processors are studying the patterns in the enemy attacks. Every time they fire at us, our systems learn a little more about how their technology works. The ship is adapting its defenses in real time." Jake watched on his screen as a pirate energy beam curved around their ship like water flowing around a rock. "The ship is predicting where they will shoot?" "Better than that. It is teaching their own weapons to miss us. Our chaotic energy field is making their targeting computers think we are somewhere else, so they aim at the wrong place on purpose." Chief Medical Officer Dan Foster called from the medical bay. "Captain, I am seeing something strange. The gravitational fluctuations from our mixed systems are affecting the crew. Everyone's reflexes are 30% faster than normal. Brain activity is increased. Whatever this field is doing, it is making us smarter and quicker." Jake felt the truth of Dan's words in his own body. His thoughts were clearer, his reactions faster. The chaotic energy surrounding their ship was not just confusing their enemies, it was enhancing the humans inside it. "Time to stop playing defense," Jake decided. "Lisa, can you overload the Draknari plasma vents?" "Sir, that would violate every safety rule from 6 different civilizations." "Perfect. Do it." The human ship suddenly blazed with electrical energy as the overloaded plasma systems sent lightning dancing across its hull. The vessel looked like a living storm as it charged directly into the center of the pirate formation. Kextar watched in horror as the impossible ship became a ball of electric death racing toward his fleet. "All ships, retreat. This is not a battle. This is madness." But it was too late. The humans had turned their ship of garbage into something that defied every rule of space combat. And they were just getting started. The drums never stopped playing. For 3 weeks, the quantum signal continued to broadcast across the galaxy, growing stronger and more complex each day. What had started as simple rhythms from Frank Miller's drums had evolved into something much bigger. Resistance cells on dozens of worlds were adding their own drum beats to the signal, creating a symphony of human defiance that echoed through space. On the occupied world of New Earth, Security Chief Betty Kane crouched in a maintenance tunnel beneath the planet's main spaceport. She was 42 years old and had worked in law enforcement for 20 years before the war. When the Zephyrians conquered New Earth, they thought they could use the existing security systems to control the human population. They made Betty, helped them by threatening to kill her family. But Betty had been secretly working with the resistance for months. She used her access to the security systems to help humans move around the planet without being detected. She also gathered information about Zephyrian troop movements and supply schedules. Tonight was different. Tonight, Betty was going to lead the biggest resistance operation in the history of New Earth. "All teams report ready," whispered her radio operator, a young man named Kevin Park. He was monitoring communications from 12 different resistance cells spread across the planet. "We have 300 fighters in position." Betty looked at her watch. According to the coded messages hidden in the drumbeat signals, resistance cells on 6 different worlds were going to attack at the same time. The operation had been planned for weeks using the quantum drum network that Dr. Amy Walsh had created. "Remember, we hit hard and fast," Betty told her team through the radio. "The drums will coordinate our timing. When you hear the attack rhythm, move immediately." The Zephyrian garrison on New Earth had grown comfortable over the past 6 months. They had 5,000 troops controlling a planet with 2 million humans. The aliens believed that humans were too scared and disorganized to fight back effectively. They were about to learn how wrong they were. At exactly midnight, the drumbeat signal changed. Frank Miller, broadcasting from his hidden chamber on New Texas, began playing the attack rhythm that he and Amy had developed. The sound was fast and urgent, like the heartbeat of a warrior running into battle. Betty heard the signal and smiled, grimly. "All teams, go now." Across New Earth, resistance fighters emerged from sewers, abandoned buildings, and underground tunnels. They had been preparing for this moment for months. Many of them were not professional soldiers, but they knew their planet better than the alien occupiers did. The attacks were perfectly coordinated. While Betty's team struck the main communications center, other groups attacked the power station, the weapons depot, and the spaceport. The Zephyrians had never faced simultaneous attacks from so many different directions. At the communications center, Betty and her 15 fighters used explosives to blow open the main entrance. The alien guards were caught completely off guard. They had been monitoring human radio frequencies, but they had no idea that the resistance was using the drumbeat signals to coordinate their operations. "Destroy all the communication equipment," Betty ordered as her team spread through the building. "Make sure they can't call for help." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Commander Roy Price was leading his own attack on New Montana. Roy had been planning this operation for weeks. The Zephyrians had been using the planet's mining facilities to extract rare metals for their war machine. Roy intended to put a stop to that. Roy's team consisted of 50 former miners who had been training as guerrilla fighters. They knew every tunnel and passage in the mining complex. They also knew exactly where to place explosives to cause maximum damage. "The drums are giving us perfect timing," Roy told his second-in-command, a woman named Lisa Cooper who had been a mining supervisor before the war. "The aliens will be too busy dealing with the attacks on New Earth to send reinforcements here." Roy's team moved through the mining tunnels like ghosts. They had painted their faces black and wore dark clothing that made them nearly invisible. In the underground passages, each fighter carried enough explosives to destroy an entire section of the mining facility. The Zephyrian guards in the mining complex were not expecting trouble. They had motion sensors and security cameras, but Roy's people knew how to avoid them. They had been studying the alien security systems for months. When the attack began, it was devastating. Roy's team simultaneously destroyed 6 different mining operations, 3 storage facilities, and the main processing center. The explosions could be heard for kilometers in every direction. But the most important breakthrough was happening in Dr. Amy Walsh's laboratory on New Texas. Amy had been working for weeks on a special project that would change the course of the war. She had discovered something amazing about Zephyrian technology. "Jake, you need to see this," Amy called excitedly as Jake Morrison entered her laboratory. She was standing next to a captured Zephyrian communication device that she had been studying. "I figured out how to inject our drumbeat signal directly into their communication network," Amy explained. Their computers use frequency patterns just like ours do, but they never thought to protect against this type of interference. Amy had created a computer virus that could make Zephyrian devices broadcast the human drumbeat signal. It was like a technological infection that would spread through their entire communication system. "How long will it take to deploy this virus?" Jake asked. "I can upload it to their network right now," Amy replied. "But once I do, there's no going back. Every Zephyrian device in human space will start playing our drums." Jake thought about the implications. If Amy was right, the psychological impact on the aliens would be enormous. They would not be able to escape the sound of human defiance, even in their own ships and bases. "Do it," Jake decided. Amy typed commands into her computer and uploaded the virus to the Zephyrian network. Within minutes, alien communication devices across dozens of star systems began broadcasting the drumbeat signal. On his flagship orbiting Earth, Supreme Commander Thexaval was reviewing reports when his communication console began playing the human drums. He stared at the device in confusion and anger. "What is happening?" he demanded from his technicians. "Sir, all of our communication equipment is malfunctioning," his chief engineer replied nervously. "We're receiving the same signal on every frequency." Similar scenes were playing out on Zephyrian ships and bases throughout human space. The aliens found themselves surrounded by the sound of human war drums, broadcasting from their own technology. Dr. Kessatar, the alien scientist who had warned about the drumbeat signals, was not surprised. He had tried to tell his superiors that humans were more dangerous than they appeared. Now the evidence was literally playing from every speaker in the Zephyrian fleet. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. The Zephyrians had conquered many species, but they had never encountered an enemy that could turn their own technology against them. The constant drumbeat made it impossible for them to concentrate or communicate effectively. On New Earth, Betty Kane's resistance fighters had successfully destroyed the main Zephyrian communications center. But even better, they could hear the drumbeat signal coming from the aliens' own equipment in other parts of the city. "They can't escape it," Betty told her team as they prepared to withdraw to their hidden base. "No matter where they go, they'll hear our drums." The coordinated attacks continued for 3 days. Every 12 hours, the drumbeat signal would change to indicate new target locations and attack times. The resistance had become a perfectly synchronized fighting force, all coordinated by the rhythm of ancient human war drums. The Zephyrians tried everything to stop the signal. They replaced their communication equipment, but the virus had already spread too far. They tried to jam the frequencies, but the quantum transmitters were too powerful. They even tried to destroy the drumbeat source, but they had no idea where it was coming from. For the first time since the war began, the aliens were afraid. They were fighting an enemy they could not see, could not track, and could not understand. An enemy that had somehow taken control of their own technology and was using it to broadcast the sound of human defiance across the galaxy. The drums had become more than just a signal. They had become a weapon. Commander Jake Morrison walked through the metal hallways of the ship, listening to the strange sounds it made. Every few steps, something would creak, buzz, or spark. The lights flickered on and off like they could not decide if they wanted to work. Water dripped from pipes that seemed to be held together with some kind of alien glue. 6 months ago, Jake had been excited when the aliens chose him to command Earth's first spaceship. Now he wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. The ship was not what anyone had expected. The Zephyrian ambassador had come to Earth with great ceremony. Velthar was tall and made of what looked like living crystal. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. He had stood before the leaders of every nation on Earth and made his announcement. "People of Earth," Velthar had said, "your species shows promise. You have survived wars, built cities, and reached for the stars. The Galactic Federation has decided to welcome you into our community. As a gift, we present you with this vessel to begin your journey among the stars." The crowd had cheered. Earth's leaders had shaken hands and smiled for cameras. Children around the world had dreamed of traveling to distant planets. Jake had felt proud to be chosen as the captain of humanity's first starship. But when Jake first saw the ship, his heart had sunk. It looked like someone had taken parts from a dozen different vehicles and stuck them together with no plan. The front section was smooth and silver, clearly from one type of alien technology. The middle was dark and bumpy, with strange symbols carved into its surface. The back had 3 different types of engines, each pointing in slightly different directions. "This ship has served many species before you," Velthar had explained when he saw Jake's confused expression. Each previous owner added their own improvements. It is a ship with much history. What Velthar did not mention was what kind of history. Jake learned later that the ship had been used as target practice by the Draconian military. The Clinari had used it to store garbage for 50 years. The Hylorians had tried to turn it into an art project and given up halfway through. The Vorthans had used it as a floating restaurant until health inspectors shut it down. Now Jake stood on the bridge, watching his crew try to make sense of the controls. There were buttons labeled in 6 different alien languages. Some screens showed star maps, others showed what appeared to be alien cooking shows. One panel kept displaying the weather on a planet that had been destroyed 300 years ago. Chief Engineer Lisa Rodriguez crawled out from under a control panel, her uniform covered in oil and some kind of blue alien substance that smelled like old fish. She had been working for 12 hours straight, trying to make the ship's basic systems work together. "Captain," Lisa said, wiping her hands on a dirty cloth, "I have good news and bad news. The good news is I figured out why the lights keep going out. The bad news is the reason makes no sense." Jake sighed. "Tell me." The ship's power system was built by the Dracnari. They use plasma energy. The lights were installed by the Zephyrians, who use crystal energy. The life support system is Clinari, and they use something called bioenergy. None of these systems are supposed to work together. "But they do work, sort of," Jake said. "That's the weird part," Lisa replied. "They should have blown up the first time someone turned on the power. Instead, they argue with each other constantly, but somehow they keep working. It's like having 3 people who speak different languages trying to cook dinner together. They disagree about everything, but somehow food gets made." Navigation Officer Ben Carter looked up from his station. His screen was currently showing what appeared to be a map of underwater caves on some alien world. "Captain, I'm getting strange readings on the sensors. Something big is coming our way." Jake moved to Ben's station and looked at the display. 12 red dots were moving toward their position. Each dot was much larger than their ship. "Pirates," Jake said quietly. The Crimson Void pirates had made Earth ships their favorite target over the past few months. They were led by a reptile-like alien named Kextar, who enjoyed hunting what he called primitive species. 3 Earth cargo ships had already been attacked. The crews had barely escaped with their lives. "How long until they reach us?" Jake asked. 20 minutes, maybe less," Ben replied. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. There were 48 humans on the ship, all volunteers who had known they might never see Earth again. They had signed up anyway because someone had to take humanity's first step into the galaxy. Lisa stood up and brushed dust off her uniform. "Captain, our weapon systems are a joke. We have 1 laser cannon from the Zephyrians that can barely cut through metal. The Dracnari gave us plasma torpedoes, but they're 50 years out of date. And the Clinari defensive shields only work against weapons that don't exist anymore." "What about running away?" asked Amy Walsh, the communications officer. "The engines are having the same argument as everything else on this ship," Lisa said. "The Zephyrian drive wants to go in one direction, the Dracnari engines want to go in another direction, and the Hylorian stabilizers are trying to keep us from going anywhere at all. We can fly, but not very fast and not in a straight line." Jake thought about his crew, about Earth, about how humanity's first contact with galactic civilization might end with their ship becoming space debris. The aliens had given them this ship, expecting them to struggle with it for years before they could do anything useful. Maybe they had given humans a broken ship on purpose to keep them busy and out of the way. But Jake knew something about humans that the aliens did not understand. When humans were given something that did not work, they did not give up. They took it apart, put it back together differently, and made it work better than it was ever supposed to. "Lisa," Jake said, "you said all our systems are fighting with each other?" "Constantly. It's like they're having an argument that never ends. What if we stop trying to make them agree? What if we let them fight, but use that fight as a weapon?" Lisa's eyes lit up with understanding. She had been trying to make the alien systems work together peacefully, but maybe the solution was to make them fight in a useful way. "Captain," she said with a growing smile, "give me 30 minutes and a lot of coffee. I think I know how to turn our biggest problem into our best weapon." The pirate ships moved closer, confident they were about to destroy another helpless human vessel. They had no idea they were about to face something the galaxy had never seen before. Human creativity born from desperation and the power of making broken things work in impossible ways.